The reinvention of the printing press has raised its first generation, and the results are in. Gen Z might just save America. Let's get into it.
Maybe progress is pushing us over the edge. Here are 3 lies from modern culture you are probably buying into. 1. Self-love is everything. Young Americans in particular are told through media, music, and TV that self-love is the answer. This is a lie and contributes to our nation's mental health epidemic. You should blame everything on other people. Modern culture has labeled the successful and the powerful as the enemy of the people. Newsflash, rich people are not the problem. Most of them didn't start out that way. They had a vision and determination to make it a reality. It's holding you back. Racism, sexism, bigotry? Nope. Your identity is not holding you back.
I've been a therapist for more than 13 years, and I am the father of 4 members of Gen Alpha. But what I'm seeing among Gen Z has given me the white pill promise that my children might actually grow up in a future that represents my values. Let's get into it. Isabel Brown of now the Daily Wire has written a book called The End of the Alphabet, and recently the jolly heretic Ed Dutton out of Great Britain has begun writing about how Gen Z is coming back from the brink and reinculcating faith and Christianity and conservatism. Watch some of their stuff.
The year that I was born, so coming into our 27th year of life, and people are saying that we look a whole lot older than millennials looked at 27, or even that millennials look like now. I cannot tell you how many of my friends, my siblings' age, younger people in my life have already had years and years and years of Botox, of fillers. Obviously, that's probably going to impact your physical appearance at a much faster rate than people who don't do those things ever, or people who do those things much later on in life.
Among young native English people, among Generation Z, they are the most religious generation for a very long time. They are so religious, in fact, that you have to be elderly in order to be as religious as them. Something is happening, something is stirring, and I'm quite pleased to say that it's something I predicted in my book, The Past is a Future Country.
Because of the rigorous amount of truth claims that Gen Z has had to filter through, they have begun to reinstitute their own ideas about tradition. And that has brought the 2023 study by the American Enterprise Institute survey found that Gen Z is showing an increased interest in religion, especially Christian, liturgical, traditional orthodoxy, not the watered down pizza party, Jesus is my boyfriend type of Christianity. They're going deeper. And part of the reason is because they have been subject to high divorce rates, high fatherlessness, high liberalism, high amounts of broken families, and people who can't define what a woman is. And seeing all that, along with the boomer-esque, Gen X-esque, millennial-esque errors in thinking, has led Gen Z more towards the path. As a matter of fact, I believe they are the generation who reports attending church the most, other than the cohort of ultra old individuals who's actually on their way out, who naturally seek God at the end of life scenario.
Children, I say unto you, a revival is happening among Generation Z. A revival. God, who has been dying out for so long, who has been ignored, who has been thrust out of our lives by wokeness and decadence and materialism, is finally re-entering with Generation Z. Generation Z, with their ridiculous tuition fees and their anti-bullying policies in schools, and they're being brought up in order to feel that they should basically castrate themselves, are in fact fighting back and are in fact going to be the new generation, the generation that restores Christianity to England.
Because millennials were so liberal coded, Gen Z is being the generation who was essentially the children of the millennial generation, ended up moving more towards Christian conservatism, because that was actually the rebellion to the post-war liberal world order that they had been fed by their parents. So because of the natural pendulum that swings back and forth based on whatever your parents think, you want to rebel against that. And so Gen Z has naturally swung away from the liberal world order and into more of a conservative worldview.
I like to have fun, 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 fun.
A 2024 Tufts University research study showed that increased political engagement from Gen Z was participating on the right, especially among Gen Z men. Now, they have been told that they're toxic, that they're untouchable, that they're unemployable, that they're not worthy of having a segment of the discourse. And so when you do that long enough, you begin to give them a group dynamic and like a survival instinct where their tribe is trying to be uplifted by each other. And therefore they founded this cohort of young men seeking not just conservatism, but Christian faith on the right, so that they can begin to fight for their value system because it wasn't being represented in other ways within the discourse. Giving mad credit to creators like Brett Cooper, Isabel Brown, Chandler Crump, and Savannah Craven. They are strong, unapologetically right-wing, and they've had it with cancel culture. They're essentially pushing through and saying, well, you can go ahead and make your attempts, you can write nasty articles about me, but I am just simply going to be unapologetically right-wing.
Mules to a new pasture, so I'm just going to check on them and make sure they have everything they need. I'm going to check on our pig that is due to give birth any day now, and then I'm going to go put the birds to bed and collect all the eggs. Hi! What are you up to? The mules look happy as ever. I think they're happy to be away from the pigs. That's where they were before, so that's good. Also, I didn't see our bull for a good 10 minutes and was convinced that he had broken through a fence or something.
Here's part of the struggle that Gen Z might go through is their money is worth less than ours has ever been worth. And even though they might have more earning potential if they circumvent college, unlike their previous generations, they will still have struggles. And most of them don't believe that home ownership is a possibility for them. The dating world has been segmented in a very unhealthy way, and the way that the battle between the sexes is going to influence them has led to like a reduced amount of marriages, reduced amount of birth rates. But there is a cohort of young men who are trying to bring back traditional values because they recognize that a patriarchal family structure was ultimately good for them. And even if that needs to look more like singleness, ministry, or living in an apartment, and even living in mom's residence for a while, all those things being equal, Gen Z, maybe that's even going to toughen them up, because as we know, good men create hard times, and Gen Z are pretty much the ones who are going to have to harden themselves in order to come up out of the hole. But I believe they can do it, and part of the reason why I started this channel was to be able to speak to young men, because it is still possible to live a life of value, meaning, and purpose, and young men deserve that opportunity. Let's try to do this together. If this information, or what we can do as a common sense therapist on this channel expressing ideas of conservatism, of Christianity, of faith, and of family values, if that can be of any service to you, please like, share, and subscribe, and I appreciate you so much. Let's white pill our Gen Z friends and promote a future of fatherhood, faith, and freedom in America.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
They're not just the Tide Pod generation. They're not just the generation of digital natives who have been raised to understand memeing culture. They are a generation who's needed to siphon through all the noise in order to find truth. And that has presented Gen Z with a much more rigorous set of values that they can represent within the discourse in a way that's debatable, that they can actually defend. And even if they're just more ideologically extreme than previous generations, part of the siloing happening on the internet has moved them further to both extremes, both ends of the bell curve, both sides being more stalwart in their beliefs, and there's less of the Venn diagram middle. Sorry, Kamala.